This is the Louie T Network.
I'm ready for some football. I don't know about you. Who else could it be but your man Louie? Yeah.
Overtime! So we head to overtime.
Who else could it be? Me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to Monday Night Football Overtime. Week number 6 edition. Indianapolis Colts taking on the Tennessee Titans in a little bit of AFC South family business. You know how the family do it. If these two teams say they ain't did it, then they ain't did it. But if they did, well, that's family business. And Indianapolis Colts seem to know how to handle family business against this Tennessee Titans team. 11 straight victories over this Colts team, over this Titans team. A wise woman once told me, all good things must come to an end. And so you had to know, it's a perfect opportunity. Mariota starts this game after missing last week's game versus the Dolphins. Turned out to be a loss in a game that the Titans probably would have won easily had he played. So you get the good news of Mariota being able to go tonight. Of course, not 100%, not going to be able to move and be as mobile as normal. But nonetheless, like you heard at the very end of this telecast, Sean McDonough say very eloquently, couldn't have said it better myself, Mariota on one leg is still much better than Matt Castle on two legs. And guess what? He said no disrespect to Matt Castle. Well, I'm not going to say that, because anytime you say no disrespect, the next statement usually means there's disrespect coming your way. So I'm willing to say this is total disrespect. Marcus Mariota on one leg is better than both Matt Cassell, and he's better than a guy that I don't know how the hell he continues to be employed in the league, Brandon Wheat. So they needed him to play. He played, and then you get the clincher. No Andrew Luck. So even though I like Jacoby Brissett, and I think he can actually start in this league for somebody, if given time, put in the right system, I think Jacoby Brissett can start in this league. He's still not good enough to beat Marcus Mariota and this Tennessee Titans team. They're better than the Indianapolis Colts. They were supposed to win this game, and it took them a while. It took them until the fourth quarter to step up and make plays. But you knew at some point they were going to get even, and once they got even, they were leaving. And they finally caught and surpassed the Colts in this game in the fourth quarter. And you heard about the fourth quarter struggles of both of these teams coming into this game. Well, someone had to have a better fourth quarter than the other. Happened to be the Titans in this game. They were able to put up 21 fourth quarter points. Unfortunately, the Colts' fourth quarter struggles continue as they gave up 21, only able to score and muster 3 themselves. And that's where this game was lost by the Colts and won by the Tennessee Titans. And the fourth quarter is winning time. Got to find a way to get it done. The Titans did that tonight, and unfortunately, the Colts have not. And as you heard at the top of the telecast, they've only beaten winless teams this season. Okay, their 2 wins have come against Cleveland and San Francisco, and so they don't know how to win these types of games against quality opponents, and they've given it up in the fourth quarter against those teams. And so they've struggled this season to close out games in winning time in the fourth quarter. I've said this all along, and I still firmly believe this. The Tennessee Titans are the best team in this division. And if they can get Mariota healthy, if they can keep him healthy, they have the formula to win enough games to win this division this season. I think they're ready to take that step. But the question is, can their young players come of age as this season progresses? Will Corey Davis ever see the field? Will he stay on the field? I think I've seen Corey Davis in 1 game total this season. Can he get on the field? Can he stay on the field? Will this young defense that's young in the secondaries particularly come of age? And most notably, Adoree Jackson, who I thought had his best game of the season tonight defensively. Can that secondary come of age with Byard and Dory Jackson and those guys in that secondary, can they start to play competent football? LaShawn Sims and company, can they start to get it done? They need a pass rush. That's evident. And you started to see a semblance of it, and more like Dick LeBeau said, okay, I got to manufacture a rush in this game late because we can't get there with just 4 or 3. And so you got to do what you got to do. You got to do what you got to do. And against a young quarterback, you should be able to blitz and get away with it. But against the better quarterbacks in this league, you might not be able to. But that's nor here nor there. You're able to get away with it tonight, late in the game when you had to have it. You were able to get stops consistently in the fourth quarter against Jacoby Brissett and that Colts offense. And it led to a 36-22 win by the Tennessee Titans in this football game. We'll get to the particulars here in a second. But first, if you haven't already done so, what are you waiting on? Subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content in 2017 and beyond. We're changing the game over here. Want you to help us do that by simply hitting the subscribe button and becoming a member of the Louie T Network. All of my social media platforms are right there with the exclusion of one, my Instagram page. All of the links are down below: Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. All down below in the description, so check that out. Also down in the description below is my donation pages. You can also click the links down there to allow you to donate. And I hope that you are gracious enough and capable enough to donate to this channel as we're trying to take that next step. And any proceeds that I get will get me one step closer to getting to my ultimate goal of taking this thing to the next level and being able to do this full time. And so Patreon and PayPal are the two ways to donate to this channel as of right now. Both of those links are down in the description as well. And there are some extra added perks for donating specific amounts on the Patreon page. So check that out. You can get some exclusive content. There'll be a video coming at some point this week to explain further the Patreon angle and what comes with specific tiers and donations and things of that nature. So if you can donate, please do. Any amount helps, and I am appreciative of it all. And if you can't, all I ask that you do is continue to support the movement here on the Louie T Network by watching, supporting, liking, and sharing the videos. And of course, if you haven't already done so, subscribing to the Louie T Network. Tell all your friends, tell all your family members, tell anybody you can about the Louie T Network. In any event, let's break this game down and talk about how the Tennessee Titans got back to 500 on the season at 3-3 with the 36-22 win over the Indianapolis Colts. I want to start on the offensive side of the football because this was a gutsy performance by Marcus Mariota. This is the type of performance that endears you to the rest of your teammates. No, he was not 100%. You could tell there was a scramble in the, I want to say it was the third quarter, might have been in the early stages of the fourth, where he felt like the pocket was collapsing around him. He didn't want to stick around to find out. So he gets out of the pocket, but he knows he's in no condition to try to outrun anybody nor take any shots unnecessarily. He slides right around the line of scrimmage, and that is not what Marcus Mariota is about. And so that told me all I needed to know in terms of his ability to move tonight. Well, it was little to no mobility from Mariota tonight. And his offensive lineman knew it. There was one play where Mariota scrambled out to his left, and you could hear his offensive lineman yell, "Oh, shit," as he was scrambling out because they knew that their job tonight was to protect him at all costs. If that meant you had to hold and pick up a holding penalty, you weren't supposed to let him get hit tonight. And he took some shots. And every time he got hit, there was an offensive lineman in the face of the defender that did it. There was a couple of times where Lawan got in the face of Colt defenders. I saw Spain in the face of a couple of defenders. Those guys were not playing around tonight. They were out to protect their quarterback. And this was a really gutsy performance by Mariota to come out less than 100%. And look, at this stage of the season, just about everybody is less than 100%. But the quarterbacks are a little bit different than everybody else. Yeah, they may have some bumps and some bruises. They may be a little sore, but rarely do quarterbacks have to deal with injuries that affect the way that they play the game. You know, you're not going to see a quarterback come and gut it out through a broken hand. That's not what quarterbacks do. You're not going to see quarterbacks gut it out through a hamstring injury generally. Lower extremity injuries, maybe, which is what Mariota had, but still, quarterbacks generally are the most healthiest players on the football field, and he was not 100% tonight. He wasn't even near 100%. And half of his game is his mobility, and that was taken away from him tonight, and he still went out and performed at a very high level, especially in the second half of this game. I thought he was phenomenal. I made some big-time throws. Him and Eric Decker had a connection tonight. They were on fire. And then when they had to have it, game tied, needing a big play, he connects with Taywan Taylor for a big, deep ball to give them their first lead of the night, or their second lead of the night at 29-22, which was huge in this game. Or it might have been their third lead of the night. I think they kicked the first field goal of the game to go up 3-0, and I think they were up 6-3 at one point, and then they were up 22-19 at one point as well. In any event, that was a huge throw in the pocket. He knew that he was probably going to get hit on that play. He did get hit on that play, and again, Taylor Lewan in the face. Not Taylor Lewan. There was another offensive lineman in the face of a defender, and Mariota pulled him away and said, "Hey, we scored. Go celebrate. We scored. Go celebrate." And so he knew he was going to get hit. He stared down the gun barrel and delivered a perfect strike about 50 yards down the field. That's gorgeous, and that's big-time football. And like I said, when his team needed him the most, he came out, because they could not afford to have Matt Cassell come out and play in this game. He was horrible last week against Miami. They didn't need to see that again. They needed Mariota. And trust me, your head coach, Mike Mularkey, knew that he couldn't afford to have Matt Cassell out there again. He knew that. And it was big that Mariota was able to gut it out, go out there and play the type of game that he played tonight. That was outstanding. The run game was good. It wasn't great until late, when the Colts needed a stop and they couldn't stop this Titans run game. They wore them down is what they did. They systematically, because what the Titans did in the second half effectively is they took over this game. The Colts, I thought, dominated the second quarter. Going into halftime, I thought they dominated the game, started to take it to the Titans a little bit. And I thought that the early interception on the first possession of the third quarter by John Simon to give them the 19-10 lead, or 19-9 lead at that time, that was huge. But after that point in the game, I felt like the Titans took over. When they were able to, and really, you could even take it a step further and say probably when they were able to force the fumble of Jack Doyle. That's when they were able to take over, when Avery Williamson was able to get that football out. He had no clue that ball was out on the ground. But when he was able to get that, that's when they started to take over and control this football game. And from that point on, this was a different ball game. But I think it might have even been right after that interception that Mariota threw, because they went down the field, got a field goal after that. Then they turned around, got the turnover, and that turned into another field goal. And all of a sudden, it's 19-15. They're right there where they want to be. And I thought they dominated the third and fourth quarter of this football game, wore that Indianapolis Colts front down, and then they were able to start pounding away at them with Murray and with Derrick Henry, which is just a nasty two-headed monster there. And so this is what the Titans are. They're a physical football team that will wear you down offensively. Still think they have a ways to go defensively, but this is a team that will wear you down offensively and grind you into a pulp with the ground game, and then use that to go play action fake like they did on the touchdown pass to Taywan Taylor. So they have their ways to push the football down the field. They've got weapons. This is a talented Titans football team. They have to gel better on the defensive side of the football. We'll get there in a second, but they've got all the tools necessary offensively to be a dangerous team in that AFC South division. And I think it's only a matter of time if they can stay relatively healthy. It's only a matter of time before that thing in the AFC South becomes a two-team race between the Titans and the Houston Texans. And I don't think the Texans have enough firepower defensively. I think they actually have enough offensively. I don't think they have enough defensive firepower, which is strange to say, but I don't think they have enough defensive firepower to outlast this Tennessee Titans football team when it's all said and done. We'll see. We will see what happens as this season progresses. But this was a big win for the Tennessee Titans on Monday Night Football, 36-22 over the Indianapolis Colts. You go to the defense of this Titans football team, and I look at this Titans defense, and I'm not in love with this defense by any stretch of the imagination. They should have given up a touchdown on the opening possession of the game. Dante Moncrief with a drop. Should have been a touchdown. Missed opportunity there by the Colts. We'll talk about that more when we get to the Indianapolis side of things. But you should have given up a touchdown there. They had their fair share of opportunities. They got in the field goal range quite a bit on the evening, but they weren't able to punch it in. They had some opportunities up close. They weren't able to get it in. They did get it in once in the second quarter, but outside of that, they struggled, just like the Titans did for most of the night, getting the football into the end zone. So there were opportunities against this Titans defense. I think you can run it against this defense. We've seen teams have success on the ground against this Titans football team. There are pockets, though. It's not like a constant inability to stop the run. There's just certain instances, like you give up a big run early to Marlon Mack that easily could have been a touchdown. If Adoree Jackson, who I thought had one hell of a football game, big pound to my man Adoree Jackson, he gets off of that block. That's a touchdown. If he didn't get off of that block, it's Marlon Mack off to the races. Nobody's catching him. And so he was able to shake the block of the receiver and jump in, and that's where he had injured his knee and had to go into the tent. But that was a big tackle because that would have been 7. That was 58 out of the gate had he not jumped off that defender and latched on and got that tackle. So you give up a big run there. Frank Gore had some nice hits throughout the game. Turbin had some nice plays. Guys getting out in space and making people miss. Obviously, you don't want Eric Walden out in space. Turbin was able to turn up the field on him late in the ball game on a crucial 2nd and 16 and get about 19. But in any event, this is a Titans defense that I think still has some gelling and molding to do together. And there are a lot of moving parts. You got a lot of young guys, a lot of new pieces coming onto this team. And so you're still trying to figure some things out defensively. A lot of guys in different roles. And so there's an adjustment going on right now in Tennessee defensively. I love Wesley Woodyard. I mean, you can see why tonight. He's been doing it 10 years now, and to me, he's still a hell of an inside linebacker, can really run still with the best of them. He's the heart and soul of this defense, if you ask me. I know a lot of Titans fans want to see more of Jayon Brown, and I thought he was around the football tonight. And I think you're going to see more of Jayon Brown as the season continues to progress. Again, another young guy that they want to get on the field, and I think eventually he'll start to see the field a little bit more. But the key in Tennessee is more pressure on the quarterback. For most teams in the league, that's the million-dollar question. Can you get to the quarterback in crucial, critical situations? Tonight, they had to dial up pressures to do that. They couldn't do it on their own. They could not get a pass rush with their guys just rushing up the field. Dick LeBeau had to manufacture a pass rush, and that's okay. That's okay. Sometimes you can't get to the quarterback, but you would love it if a Rakpo would win a one-on-one matchup or Derek Morgan would win a one-on-one matchup, but I don't know if those guys are consistently capable of winning. You would love to see Jarrell Casey win one-on-one matchups more consistently than he did tonight, but it didn't happen. Those guys are going to have to step up because against certain quarterbacks, the ability to blitz, not going to be there. You don't want to blitz against specific teams and certain looks, certain quarterbacks. They can hurt you. And so I think this is a Titans defense that they still have a ways to go, but they've got talent on that side of the football as well. And so they like LaShawn Sims. I think that a lot of people, I've been hearing people down on Adoree Jackson this year. He's a rookie, man. And I've said this a million times, and I continue to stress this to fan bases all over the league. Give your youngins a chance to mature. Not every player matures at the same rate. Don't look at one starting a rookie corner and say, this guy's playing this well, why isn't our guy playing that well? Because they're not the same guy. Okay, don't look at someone else's rookie wide receiver and say, this guy's over here beasting. Why is our guy barely getting on the field? They're not the same players. Do not take what someone else is doing and try to extrapolate that onto your player. Rookies of all different sizes, shapes, and skill types mature at different rates. Some guys come from the collegiate ranks straight into the league and they get it like Jack Conklin did last year. First year, all pro, right out the gate. Okay, and you got other teams that are looking at their tackle saying, I want my refund, I want my pick back. I got my receipt right here. Can I get my pick back, please? No refunds. Okay? Give guys an opportunity. Sometimes you can look at a guy and be like, all right, he can't play at this level. He's a bust. But even then, you still need time to make that assertion and that claim that guy can't get it done. And so I think Adoree Jackson's going to be fine. And I think tonight was proof of that. I thought he played a whale of a ball game against T.Y. Hilton, among others. And he was around the football. And I think it's only a matter of time before he busts off a big one on a kickoff return. Obviously, he's had a couple called back. I think he's going to get one at some point this season as well. So I think his pick is going to end up paying off huge dividends for this Titans football team. And I think this thing is going to come together for them sooner rather than later. And I'm looking for big things from this Tennessee Titans team because I think they're the team that's going to come out of the AFC South when it's all said and done. And this was a big win at home. You got to find a way to win the games at home in the division. Those are imperative. So tough to win on the road in this league, as you found out in Houston a few weeks ago. It's tough to win in this league on the road, especially in the division. Got to have those at the crib. You were able to take care of a pesky Indianapolis team with a less than 100% Marcus Mariota. And that's a big win if you are the Tennessee Titans. You go to the Indianapolis Colts side of things. Let me say this before I start. Chuck Pagano, this is why I don't see eye to eye with Chuck. Look, I know you didn't like the call at the end of the game on that fourth down where you went for it and you ran basically the naked with Jacoby Brissett and that quarterback keep. He didn't have the first down. And there was really no way. That's almost like a guy in a pile. And you're arguing over the spot of the ball. You're not. There's no way they're going to overturn that. There's nothing definitive that you can see that will get that call overturned for you. And I understand that it was a big play in the game, but also know that if with the stop, your defense can get the football back to your offense with a chance to tie the game up. You've got 3 timeouts and the 2-minute warning. Don't be stupid here. Don't be foolish. Don't do something out of sheer emotion. Yes, you were upset and you felt like that was a bad spot. Don't use a challenge and by virtue of challenging, waste a timeout. This is not the time for this, Chuck. Not the time. You got 3 timeouts and a 2-minute warning. Chuck, be smart. Don't be a retard. What did Chuck do? Chuck threw the challenge flag. Not smart, Chuck. You're not going to win. Somebody needed to tell Chuck in his ear, hey, Chuck, you're not going to win this one, bro. Got to pick your battles. This is not the time for this, Chuck. We got 3 timeouts. We get a stop and the 2-minute warning. We've got plenty of time to get right back down here and try to tie this game up at 29. Be smart here, Chuck. What did Chuck do? Throw the damn challenge flag. Look, I told you, Chuck is not a good game manager. He's just not. I talked about Chuck not throwing the flag in week 1 versus the Los Angeles Rams. His team scores a touchdown. He doesn't throw the challenge flag. And he probably thinking to himself, well, it's 1st and goal from the 1. What's the worst that can happen? Oh, the worst that can happen is that you can, the next 4 downs, not get into the end zone, turn the ball over on downs, and end up losing the game 46-7. That's the worst thing that can happen. You score a touchdown there, it's a different game. You didn't challenge. It was a touchdown. Chuck is a poor manager of the game, and he showed it again tonight. And it is what it is. Bottom line is that's not the reason they lost this game. They lost this game because they didn't make enough plays to win this game. Let's start on the offensive side of the football with the Indianapolis Colts. They had an opportunity early to get a touchdown on the first possession of the game. Dante Moncrief drops a touchdown. Can't throw the football much better than Jacoby Brissett did on that play. And I told you, I like Jacoby Brissett. I think he's an NFL starting caliber quarterback. I really do. In any event, that was a perfect throw on the seam ball to Moncrief, and he just dropped it. Flat out dropped it. And you want to win on the road against a divisional opponent that's better than you? You need to make that play. Those can't slip through your fingers. Jack Doyle has to catch the damn football. You can't fumble the football. The mistakes that they made tonight, you can't make and expect to win. You just can't. They had opportunities in this football game. They had to settle for some field goals. Adam Vinatieri misses an extra point, which is very uncharacteristic of him. They made too many mistakes tonight. You make the kind of mistakes that they made in this ball game, and you're asking for an L. And that's what they got. And like I said, I thought that they went away from the run a little too early for me. I thought that I wanted to see more Marlon Mack in this game. And I know he likes to bounce everything outside. That was one of the knocks on him coming out of South Florida, is that, yeah, he wants to bounce everything to the outside. And the Colts are among the leaders in amount of runs for negative yards. I get it. I understand. But this guy's a big play waiting to happen. And I was talking to a Colts fan last week, and he was like, after that 49ers win, you think Mack is going to see more touches? And I was convinced we were going to see a ton of Marlon Mack tonight. And we didn't. And that was surprising. I think I see more of Robert Turbin, which that's fine. I like Robert Turbin. I don't love him. I love Marlon Mack. But, okay, fine, whatever. Still thought we would see more Marlon Mack than we did. And that was disheartening because, again, that Colts offense, not a bunch of game changers. You've got, and when he plays like this, you don't call T.Y. Hilton when he's got 1 or 2 catches for, I told you this is what T.Y. Hilton does. You don't call him T.Y. when he plays like this. You call him Eugene. You call him by his government-issued name. Eugene Hilton tonight, what, 1 or 2 catches? 20-something, maybe 30 yards? That's Eugene for you. Now, when T.Y. decides to show up, that's one of the few playmakers you got. You add Marlon Mack onto that list, and it's a short list of guys that can do something vertically, that can explode at any moment in the game and score from anywhere on the field. You don't have many of those guys on your team. So you would think Marlon Mack would be a guy you would want to get on the field as much as possible, because even if Frank pops one, Frank's not going to the crib with it. Marlon Mack is, though. And so you would think they would try to get him in the game and maybe throw a screen to him and see if they can't get him out of space. I don't recall a screen to Marlon Mack tonight. I don't. You would think they would try to get him out in space and get that speed on full display. I didn't see many opportunities for Marlon Mack tonight. So that was really disappointing. And I don't feel like you're maximizing the amount of talent that you have. You're lacking at the tight end position. Jack Doyle has been a big disappointment this year. A lot of drop passes from Jack Doyle this season. The receiver position has been a disappointment because you don't know if T.Y. or Eugene is showing up from week to week. Moncrief, I like Dante Moncrief, but he just hasn't gotten back to year 1 form. I still am waiting for the Dante Moncrief that looked like he was going to be a beast and take this league by storm year 1. I haven't seen that guy since his rookie season. Still waiting for that guy to come back and show something. After that, you tell me, who do they have at receiver? Quan Bray? I'm good. I'm going to pass on that, man. Thanks, though. I appreciate it. What else you got for me? Dorsett? Philip Dorsett, right? No, you traded him to Indianapolis. That's right. Who else you got at receiver? Right. So my point is, a guy like Marlon Mack belongs on the football field as much as possible, and that didn't happen tonight. But like I said, bottom line is there are opportunities in this game for the Colts to maybe put a little bit more distance between them and the Titans, and they failed to do so. Missed extra point, dropped touchdown pass, a fumble that led to Titans points. Too many mistakes on the road, and you allowed the Titans to hang around. And they were the better team. And the longer you allowed them to hang around in this football game, the more mistakes you made, the less likely it was you were going to come away with a victory in this football game. And you weren't able to get it done. You go to the defensive side of the football. I thought it was a good first half. And for the most part, I thought the red zone defense was outstanding. You finally gave up a touchdown in the fourth quarter to DeMarco Murray on the ground in the red zone. But I thought first half of this game, you gave your team a chance to run away and distance themselves in this game because you did a really good job in the red zone of keeping the Titans out of the end zone. You did a really good job of really keeping them out of the red zone in general, keeping them on that fringe. Okay, you can move the ball a little bit, but you're not going to get in the red zone. You're not going to get in the end zone. Kick a field goal. And there are opportunities for the Colts offensively to score touchdowns and maybe distance themselves in this game. You get the interception to start the third quarter by John Simon, a pick six. That was a huge defensive play. At that point, it's 19-9. Should have been 20, missed extra point. That hurts because instead of it being an 11-point lead, and if at some point maybe it gets tight late, they got to go for 2 to tie the game up instead of being able to just kick an extra point and have it be tied at 19. And so those are the types of things that go through your mind as you see the score ending up the way that it did. But in any event, you made all the plays up until that point in the game. And it seemed like after that fumble by Jack Doyle, all the sails came out of this team defensively. And the floodgates opened. Sort of like that second half against Seattle on that Sunday night game where you're like, man, Colts defensively playing pretty good. You're up 15-10 at halftime. You're like, wow, this is outstanding. These guys are hanging tough. And then the floodgates open in the second half. They score 36 unanswered points, and you lose the game 46-15. It wasn't as drastic tonight, but it was a similar occurrence. After that fumble, you held up. Your back was strong yet again, but you held up. But unlike that game where the floodgates totally open and you just start giving up touchdowns galore, you were able to force a field goal after that fumble, but defensively you weren't able to get stops consistently. You weren't able to flip field position. The Titans consistently moved the football in the second half, whether it resulted in a field goal or a touchdown. They were moving the football consistently. I don't recall them punting the football many times in the second half of this game. And like I said, after that fumble, I think the sails came out of this defense. They started to wear down. They were on the field a ton in the second half. And you saw the end result. You start having injuries. Rashard Melvin goes down. And not soon thereafter, Pierre Desir and your rookie, who I think is going to be a hell of a football player, at the safety position, gives up. And it looks like some kind of miscommunication between the two of them. Looks like the safety's playing cover two. Both of them looked like they were playing cover two, to be honest. But it just looked like he gave too much room on the outside. I don't know if he was expecting help to the outside or not. Pierre Desir obviously is playing cover two. He never, ever looked like he was in anything other than cover two. And so he just let the receiver go, Taywan Taylor, up the field. And it's a shame because this defense played well all night long. And to give up that big play at that moment in the game, 5 minutes, a little over 5 minutes left in this game, and to give it up for the first time all night, to give up a huge play like that at the most critical juncture of the game, that's disappointing, but it happened. And like I said, this defense wore down. And then when you get tired, that's when you get mental mistakes. And you got a mental mistake there, and it cost you big time in this football game. Much like the Colts or much like the Titans, you need more pressure on the quarterback as well. I like Jabal Sheard. Thought he was a presence for a vast majority of the night. Him and Taylor Lewan had some battles. He hit Mariota a couple of times, and Lewan took exception to it. But the bottom line is, I've always said this about this Colts defense. They need more pressure on the quarterback. And that's why I'm still waiting on Terrell Basham to show up and start playing more. And again, I don't know if he's hurt or if they just don't think he's ready and he's not good enough right now and he's inactive. But I want to see more of Terrell Basham. I'm pretty sure if a Colts fan is out there, they can tell me if he's hurt or if he's just not active and they don't think he's ready yet. But I want to see Terrell Basham, at least in obvious passing situations. But in any event, Titans get it done. They were able to overcome their fourth quarter woes in this football game, and they were the ones that were the aggressors and took it to this Indianapolis Colts, who have fourth quarter woes of their own. And really, the entire second half has been unkind to this Colts team, but especially the fourth quarter. That continues to be the case, as tonight they were outscored 21-3 in the fourth quarter, and they lose this game 36-22. Titans improve their record to 3-3, get a share of first place in the AFC South along with the Texans and Jags at 3-3. Meanwhile, the Indianapolis Colts drop to 2-4 and find themselves in the cellar by themselves in the AFC South division. Let's get to your comments if you are out there watching and see what you guys have to say. Lil Bam 19, what up, Bam? Says Corey Davis will be back after the bye week. Gut check for my win for my Titans. I agree with you, Lou. Our pass rush was non-existent. Got to have more, man. That's a big time issue. And you heard John Gruden talk about fourth quarter pass rush. That's imperative. In this league, that's winning time. And that's when you need to step up and get pressure on the quarterback. And a lot of times you know the other team is passing the football. And at that moment, you need your best pass rushers to start getting pressure on the quarterback. And I don't blame Dick LeBeau for saying, you know what? I don't trust you guys. I'm going to go ahead and send some pressure. Don't worry about it. Cloud says, some of these teams are very underwhelming this season at the moment. The Raiders, the Titans, Tampa, etc. It depends on what your expectations were for these teams. I wasn't high on Tampa. I thought the Raiders would be better, yes, but they've had some injuries. You know, injuries can definitely deflate a season and can change the expectations of a season. Look at the Green Bay Packers. They just went in one day, one play. They went from, oh, they're the class of the NFC most likely, going to win their division most likely, the scariest team because of the bad man, Aaron Rodgers, to who are the Green Bay Packers and why should we be afraid of them? I mean, that's what injuries can do. The Raiders played a game without Derek Carr, one that we all think they probably would have won at home versus the Baltimore Ravens. They lose that game because there was no Derek Carr. The Titans lost a game last week against the hapless, lowly Miami Dolphins, who looked anything but on Sunday versus the Falcons on the road, but they were horrible in that game versus the Titans a week ago. But there was no Marcus Mariota, and so they were able to win that game as dreadful as they played. So, and Tampa, I wasn't high on them. Unlike some of you guys out there that thought Tampa was going to be really good. I just didn't. I didn't think Tampa was going to be that good. So I think Tennessee's okay. I think they're going to be fine. The Raiders have been a little disappointing this year. Tampa, not so much because I expected this from them. Tennessee, they're 3-3. I think they're fine. I think the injuries have impacted their season thus far. Dark Sealer 1995 says, Mariota reminds me of Alex Smith. He can be good to great, but there's games where you're scratching your head and wonder what he's doing. I don't know if he's. I don't think he's Alex Smith. I think the ceiling on Mariota is a little bit higher than Alex Smith, but I guess I could see where the comparison comes in. Alex Smith was an option, read option type quarterback under Urban Meyer, under Herb at Utah. Was very prolific, was a number 1 overall pick. Mariota won the Heisman Trophy in a similar offense under Chip Kelly. They have a similar style of play. I guess I can see where you're going with that, but I think Mariota's upside is a lot greater than that of Alex Smith. But if this Alex Smith that we're seeing this year would have been the guy that we've seen throughout his entirety of his career, if this guy that we're seeing this year had been playing for the last 10 years, then I think you'd have a valid point, because I think that the guy we're seeing this year is more along the lines of what people think Marcus Mariota can be. I mean, Alex Smith is playing at an MVP type level, and I think people think Marcus Mariota can be that for the Tennessee Titans in the near future. Dark Sealer 1995 says, Colts have 0 pass rush. There's not one guy on that defense you worry about rushing the passer, and their inside linebackers are bad. I hated that 4th down call to scramble with Brissett. I agree with you on there's not a guy that you worry about, even though I think Jabal Sheard is a really good defender. They miss him in New England right now. They really do miss Jabal Sheard in New England. That being said, they don't have a legit pass rushing threat off the edge that you're terrified about, that you have to game plan to stop. There's nobody with real juice off the edge. That's why I keep talking about Terrell Basham. That's why I keep mentioning his name. Their 3rd round pick out of Ohio, a guy that I think if he works closely with Robert Mathis, he could be a stud for them down the line. I want to see more of Terrell Basham. And I didn't like that 4th down call either. I agree with you. I think the injury to Turbin the play before altered their play call. If they've got Turbin, who's their hammer, that you heard that on the telecast, 7 for 7 on 4th downs, I think they would have just turned around and handed him the football. But he got hurt the play before. I don't think they were comfortable handing the ball to anybody else in that situation, and so they decided to go with the naked, and it backfired on them, and they didn't convert. So I think that's why they decided to go with that play. Enrique Valencia says, I'm so effing sick and tired of Pagano. Mac only has 2 carries after busting a big run in his first carry. Look, you got me. I said the same thing. I thought I talked to and it might have been you. I don't think it was you, but I talked to a Colts fan. And at first I thought it was you, but I said it might have been somebody else. And I was talking to a Colts fan last week, and we saw the impact that Mac had on that game last week versus San Francisco. And he said, man, you think we're going to see more Mac next week? And it might have been Enrique, but he said, you think Mac's going to see more time this week? And someone else, and it might have been the same person, said he needs to take over the starting role from Gore. And I don't have a problem with Gore continuing to start. As long as Marlon Mack is touching the rock more than Frank Gore, I don't have a problem with it. Gore can start the game and get 14 carries, and Mack can get 12 carries and then catch it 3 times out of the backfield, and I'm cool with that. But to see Mac bust off a big run early in the game and then be reduced to little to no playing time thereafter, that makes no sense to me. Is that all Chuck Pagano? I can't blame him for that. He's a defensive-minded guy. I put that on the offensive play caller because they have different plays and packages and guys that they want to get into the game. I don't put that on Chuck Pagano. But if I'm Chuck, I'm telling them I want to see Mac in the game more. And he shouldn't have to go tell his offensive coordinator that after seeing what Marlon Mack brought to the table last week against San Francisco. He shouldn't. And the first play of the game that he touched the rock. After seeing that, you shouldn't have to tell your offensive coordinator, hey, make sure you get 25 in the game some more. Want to see him touch it some more. You shouldn't have to tell him that. Enrique Valencia says, making Quincy Wilson inactive because he's not a special teams player. Pagano might be the worst head coach in the history of the NFL. Now, if that's true, and I can't confirm nor deny that, I'm just taking your word for it. If you are not activating, there's got to be more going on than that. That sounds like a tired excuse for the real reason. Maybe he doesn't like Quincy Wilson's attitude or work ethic in practice or whatever the case may be. But that can't be the reason that you don't activate your second round pick, Quincy Wilson. That can't be. Because you're not good enough to sit a guy like that. He's a young player that needs exposure and needs to play. Second round picks aren't inactive. You don't do that to second round picks unless they're hurt or they're struggling to grasp something. They're not giving you the effort that you think you need out of that guy, and there's someone else playing much better. Okay, I get it. But I look at the cornerback position for this Colts football team, and I look around and I say, you telling me that you got 5 guys that are better than Quincy Wilson, and because he, quote unquote, is not playing special teams, he can't be active? Yeah, you got to get out of my face with that. Dark Sealer 1995 says, Eugene Hilton was MIA, and they need to get rid of Hayward Bay. I mean, Jack Doyle, the guy has the Bay illness. Yeah, man. Jack Doyle, I remember, and it's crazy because when Andrew Luck was there, he was catching every damn thing. Every goddamn thing. And now this year is like he's got damn grease on his hands. He can't catch as my old high school coach used to say, he can't catch claps in a whorehouse. I mean, Jack is struggling to catch any goddamn thing. He's really struggling right now. Enrique Valencia says, we're 2-4, and the two teams we beat are combined 0-12. Have the worst point differential in the NFL. Chuck gotta go tonight. Chuck's not gonna go tonight. That's not the MO of this Colts organization. But Chuck, I think he's gonna be gone. If not at some point during this season, Chuck will be gone at the end of this season. Dark Sealer 1995 says, what the heck is the Colts' identity? They don't run well. They don't pass well. They don't play defense well. So what is this team's identity? That's the problem. They can run it well. They can throw it well. They just don't put their best players in positions to do those things well. You telling me you can't get Eugene the football more in this game and have him morph from Eugene into T.Y.? One catch? Hell, if you feel like they're playing that good of coverage, which they couldn't have been, they just didn't get him the football, throw him a hitch, a bubble screen. Get him some blockers out in front. Same thing with Mac. Like, you don't have to be the smartest guy in the room to get your best players touches. Hell, even T.Y. can touch it on a jet sweep if you feel like, hey, we just want to get T.Y. involved. Give him the ball on a jet sweep. I mean, it's not hard to get your best players the football. It's not. There's excuses, and then there's getting your best players the football. The reason Ken Zampese is no longer the offensive coordinator in Cincinnati is because he had excuses. Bill Lazor, their new offensive coordinator, he gets the football to his playmakers. It's simple. This is not rocket science, folks. It is not hard to be a good offensive coordinator in this league. You want to know why Andy Reid and his Chiefs football team is 5-1 right now? Because they maximize the talent that they have on their football team. They find ways to get guys involved and get guys touches. It's not hard. It really isn't. Some guys make it a lot harder than it needs to be. And those are the guys that make excuses as to why certain guys didn't get touches. I don't want to hear excuses. I just want results. Get your playmakers to football. This Colts team doesn't have a ton of playmakers. So T.Y. Hilton can't be Eugene. You got to get him to rock. Marlon Mack can't be on the bench. He can't help you there. He needs to be on the field. Enrique Valencia says that fourth down call was horrendous, but typical from Pagano. Again, I won't allow you to put every single thing that is wrong with this team on Chuck Pagano. I guarantee you he didn't call that fourth down play. He did not call that play. He didn't. That would go to your offensive coordinator. He called that play. All right? So, I'm telling you right now that Chuck Pagano is not responsible for everything that goes wrong with this football team. He's responsible for a lot of it, but he's not responsible for every single thing that goes wrong, especially on the offensive side of football. But that being said, that was a terrible call on 4th down and 2. Cloud says both teams' defenses are bad. The Titans' defense isn't good, but it's not terrible. It's not as bad as you think. Corey Fitterman says, yo fam, so Jacoby has been looking pretty solid. Do you see a QB needy team picking him up next year? Maybe. I mean, like I said, if I'm Indianapolis, I'm shopping this guy. I'm telling Andrew, because the Colts, they're not ready to do anything this year. Andrew Luck comes back. I don't think this is a playoff caliber team right now, not as constructed. Give their GM one more offseason to kind of construct this team, mold it, maybe get a new head coach in there, and then maybe you can revamp, reload, retool, and see if you can't get back at it next year. I'm not saying give up on this season, okay? You'll never hear those words come out of my mouth, but they're not – and look, they're not that far out. I mean, if Andrew Luck came back next week, they could still win this division. If Andrew Luck came back in 2 weeks, they could still win this division. But what I'm saying is, if I'm the Colts, I continue to showcase Jacoby Brissett, because I think you can fetch a pick for him, because he's still going to be under contract come next year. Because he's a rookie last year. So he's still got 2 more years left on his rookie deal. So if I'm Indianapolis, I'm looking around the league and I'm saying, look, man, not everybody's going to get a quarterback in the 2018 NFL draft. You know, someone's going to end up with the short end of the deal. Hey, I got Jacoby Brissett over here, man. And all it's going to cost you is a 4th round pick. I'm not saying, I'm just saying. Enrique Valencia says, what does Chuck do well as a head coach? Defense? Nope. Offense? Nope. Coaching up young talent? Nope. I can't disagree with you. I don't think he's a head coach. I don't think he's head coaching material. I think he's a coordinator in this league. And that's fine. Not everybody is meant to be a head coach. Look at the guy that was across from you on the field tonight in Dick LeBeau. Never been a head coach in this league. Always been a coordinator. Why? Because he's a coordinator. He's a coordinator. Not everybody in this league is meant to be a head coach. Cloud says, basically Chuck is goofy as F and has no idea how to manage the game. Facts. Deron Johnson says, that was a good game tonight. It was. I enjoyed that game. That was good theater, man. I love family business on primetime television because generally when family members meet, this is the type of game that usually you get. So I enjoyed it as well. Dark Steeler 1995 says, Chuck Pagano is trying out for the next Dumb and Dumber. That's why he challenged that call. Hey, y'all leave Chuck alone, man. Y'all leave Chuck alone. Let's see. All right. Here we go. Real Fact says, are you buying Deshaun Watson can keep this level of play up? Why not? If I told you the key to that offense is Will Fuller the fifth. If he stays healthy, there's no doubt in my mind that offense can be dynamic each and every single week. Because Nuke is the ultimate possession receiver that can still make plays down the field, but he's so tough to stop because he's so physical at the stem of his route. He can separate. He can win. And so if you got to go to somebody on 3rd and 8, you can go to Nuke. They love their tight end position, and it seems like he's always open. Then Will Fuller stretches the field. They've got a number of different guys that supplement the big-time guys well. I still think they're bringing Braxton Miller along. The guy that they got from the 49ers, I think he's playing well for them too. There's enough talent they can run the football. They like Ryan Griffin. I love Ryan Griffin. I just think that there's a lot of talent on that Texans football team around him. And if Will Fuller's healthy, it changes the dynamic of that offense. You can't just load up on Nuke, and he's got to get one-on-one because you need to keep a safety over the top. And if you don't, Will Fuller's going to beat your corner one-on-one. There aren't many corners that can stay with that guy stride for stride. So I think Watson, as long as that offensive line does an adequate job, as long as they stay committed to the run, stay balanced, and continue to run the things that Deshaun Watson is comfortable with, which they have over the last 3 weeks, sky's the limit for that guy. Enrique Valencia says, they say he's not ready yet. A healthy scratch today. Are you referring to Terrell Basham? If you are, that's a shame. Brandon Sullivan says, I keep waiting for an AFC South team to take over that division. When is it going to happen? I think it's going to be just like it is every year. It's going to come down to the wire. Jacksonville is no longer a pushover. So they're going to end up beating a team or two in that divisional race. They've already beaten Houston once. They lost to Tennessee, but that doesn't mean they can't go back to Tennessee later on in the season and exact a measure of revenge. But I don't see Jacksonville winning that division, but I see them making it tough on everybody else to win the division. Indy, if they get Andrew Luck back, they could have a say in how this division goes. I just think it's going to come down to 9-7 and somebody winning this division at 9-7 and everybody else 8-8, 7-9, 6-10, somewhere in there. So I don't think anybody's going to actually run away with this division and separate themselves. I just think it's going to come down to the wire like it always does. Steph Curry says, Pagano reminds me so much of Jeff Fisher, an average coach at best. Agree. Except Jeff Fisher had longevity in this league. He had been to a Super Bowl. Chuck Pagano, albeit he's been to the playoffs and been to an AFC championship game, I don't think he gets the respect that a Jeff Fisher had around the league, even though I think Jeff Fisher was a good coach the first time around with the Titans, not so much with the Rams. So from that perspective, I'd say Jeff Fisher 2.0 in St. Louis with the Rams was more like Chuck Pagano is now. Absolutely. I'd agree with that. But Jeff Fisher 1.0 in Tennessee, nah. I think Jeff Fisher was actually a good coach then. Brandon Sullivan says, Mack and Kamara were my favorite rookie running backs out of the draft. Really want to see more from Mack. You sound like me. Those were my two guys in this past year's draft. I wanted my Redskins to take at least one of them. They took neither one of them. And I think both of those guys could be doing big things in Washington right now. So, yes, I want to see more out of Mack. I'm a Marlon Mack fan. And I think he could do big things for this Colts football team, which is why I can't understand why he's not getting more snaps and touches. Eagle Speed says, where do you rank T.Y. Hilton in the league as a receiver? He's one of the better receivers in this league. You look at his production and his numbers, they match up fairly well with anybody you want to put him against. A.J. Green, Antonio Brown, Odell Beckham over the last 3 years or so. You put his numbers against anybody's numbers and he's right there. But you can easily run off 5 to 7 receivers before you get to T.Y. Hilton in this league. There's Julio Jones. There's Antonio Brown. There's A.J. Green. There's Odell Beckham Jr. I think you could easily put a Jordy Nelson ahead of him because of the consistency that you get out of Jordy Nelson week in and week out. That's 5 right there. Obviously, I'm not sitting here and racking my brain over some of the other guys that I'm probably leaving out, which is why I hate doing lists. Des Bryant, even though I don't know if his seasons over the last 3 years compare to Hilton's. Demaryius Thomas is another guy. DeAndre Hopkins. I'd take all those guys before I would take T.Y. Hilton. So, and again, I'm probably leaving out 2 or 3 more receivers. But Hilton, he's a top 10 receiver in this league. I'll say that. I won't get to 10 guys before I get to him. Maybe 8, possibly 9, but I won't get to 10 other guys before I get to T.Y. Hilton. So I'd say he's a top 10 receiver in this league. Vegeta's Dark Side says, do you think Luck will ever be the same quarterback? I don't see why not. I mean, we haven't seen him yet to be able to say, oh, man, he doesn't look right. You know, I don't see why he can't get back to what he once was, especially if they have a running game, which I think they could actually have if they, you know, surround him with the necessary parts. They need another receiver, which is crazy because I remember when we were all killing their old GM, Ryan Grigson, for drafting Philip Dorsett, which it wasn't Dorsett that we had a problem with, is where they drafted him. If they would have drafted Philip Dorsett in the 2nd or 3rd round, no one would have said anything. It was the fact that, yet again, you take another receiver and you take Philip Dorsett of all receivers in the 1st round when you could have used an offensive lineman. You could have used a number of things at that point. You take Philip Dorsett, just didn't make sense. And this was on the heels of taking Bjorn Werner in the 1st round, 2 years prior, and he was looking like a surefire bust, which he turned out to be and is no longer in the league. They need another receiver now. They need a receiver. They need a tight end. Jack Doyle is not cutting it. And it's amazing what happened. You had all the tight ends you could ask for, okay? And now Fleener's not there. You trade away the other tight end to New England, and all of a sudden you got nothing. You got nothing. You got Jack Doyle, and you got nothing. Dark Sealer 1995 says, I think a problem no one talks about with the Colts is that they hold on to veterans too long. Frank Gore isn't good anymore, and they need a new kicker with a big young leg. They play safe. Well, until otherwise notified, I'm fine with Adam Vinatieri knocking home 52-yard field goals. I don't know about you, but he doesn't miss. So you can go right ahead and get you a new kicker. I'm good with Adam Vinatieri because I don't know if you've noticed, but if you look around the league, there's a number of teams struggling at field goal kicker. Not the Colts. They don't have a problem at field goal kicker. So if it's not broken, I'd prefer to not fix it. Now, as far as Frank Gore is concerned, Gore actually still has some juice left. He's getting too many touches. I don't have a problem with Frank Gore starting and getting 10 to 15 carries in a game. The problem is I have a problem with Frank Gore getting 10 to 15 carries in the game when Marlon Mack is only getting 2 or 3 carries in the game. Then I have a problem. If Marlon Mack is getting 12 to 15 touches and Gore is getting 12 to 15 touches, I don't have a problem with that. My problem is when I look up and Frank Gore's got 19 carries for 74 yards and I look and Marlon Mack's got 2 carries. Now I have a problem. Why? Makes no sense. Gore, if you use him correctly and really the running back position is no position for old men. You know what I mean? You don't need a 34-year-old running back in this day and age in the NFL. You can get a running back anywhere, a young running back. But besides that, I still think he can play at a high level. Frank looks good out there to me. Just know that Frank isn't Frank of 5 years ago. They understand that. But just know that you got a young gunner on the bench with fresh legs that's willing and ready to explode onto the scene, and you holding him back. Dark Steeler 1995 says, this Colts team has been in disarray for so long because their owner was in disarray himself with his drinking. If your owner isn't responsible and dependable, how can the organization be? All valid points. You know, he had a couple of issues that he was dealing with, some demons that he was dealing with. Their general manager, it was amazing. I think in like 2013 or 14, he won general manager of the year. And then from that point on, he was horrid. I mean, year after year, he would make poor decisions. I think it all started with trading a first-round pick for Trent Richardson. And literally, from that point forward, every decision he made after that was the absolute worst decision he could make. Sean Mack says this division could realistically be won at 8-8 or 7-9 like the Seahawks did when Lynch actually became beast mode. I don't see it being that bad. Somebody's going to get to 9 wins. I truly believe at least one of these teams, someone's going to dominate this division. Someone's going to go 5-1 in the division, and that's where they're going to get their 9 wins. Someone's going to dominate this division. It could be Houston or Tennessee. I think it's going to be one of those two teams. Someone's going to run the division, run the table the rest of the way because Houston already has a loss in the division. Tennessee already has a loss in the division. Somebody's going to take the initiative and run the table and go 5-1, maybe 4-2 at the worst, but somebody's going to clean the division up, and that's where they're going to get the bulk of their wins before it's all said and done. Steph Curry says, could you explain to me how your Redskins lost Deshaun and Garcon at the same time? Was it because they tagged Cousins? No. They didn't want either one of those receivers back, as it turns out. Now, Deshaun, they didn't want him back at all. Pierre, his price tag was too high. The 49ers offered him way more money than the Redskins ever envisioned him getting. And at that moment, the Redskins said, hey, man, it's been real, Pierre, man. We enjoyed you, bruh. But if that's the kind of money you commanded, peace. And another thing was they wanted Kirk Cousins to assume more of a leadership role. With those two receivers on the team, he couldn't tell them what to do. Both of those guys, they weren't listening to Kirk Cousins. Kirk didn't have any control over those guys. When they were upset and disgruntled, they let Kirk know about it. And you can't have players showing up your quote-unquote leader of the team. You can't have that happening. And so in order for Kirk to assume the role of leader and be able to have control over the locker room as a quarterback should, those guys had to leave. Sort of like what the Panthers did with Steve Smith Sr. in Carolina. By pushing him out the door, it allowed room for Cam Newton to be a leader on that football team. Was that a good thing? You got me. I know it was the best thing for this Redskins team, even though on the field we missed Pierre Garçon. But it was the best thing from a locker room perspective for those guys to go ahead and move on and allow Kirk Cousins and some other veterans to be leaders in their locker room. And finally, FBG Tony says, I got the Titans winning this AFC South. Watson is going to get caught slipping in a game or two. I don't know if that's the case, but I do have the Titans winning this division as well. Dark Seal of 1995 says, if Martavis Bryant really does want to be traded, the Colts should be calling the Steelers immediately. What are they asking for? That's the question. What are they asking for? If they're asking for a hefty price tag, no, you don't do it. If they're asking for something minuscule, some kind of late round draft choice that comes with a contingency, sort of like what the Cardinals did with the Saints for Adrian Peterson, then you do it. But I think to the Steelers, Martavis Bryant's value is much higher than a conditional late round draft pick. If I'm the Steelers, I let him be disgruntled, but I hold on to him because you may need him. You may need him. In any event, that's going to do it for this video. Titans get it done at home in a game that they needed to win. This was a must-win for the Titans. They had to have this one at the crib, and they get it with an explosive fourth quarter, 21 points in all in the final frame to run away from the Colts, 36-22 in this ball game. They get back to 500 and get a share of first place along with the Jags and Texans at 3-3. Meanwhile, the Indianapolis Colts drop to 2-4, and they're at the bottom of the AFC South with this loss. And they continue to struggle when the game matters most in the fourth quarter. That point differential in the fourth quarter continues to grow and blossom, and it is disgusting how badly they've been outplayed in winning time in the fourth quarter of football games this season. It's going to do it for your man Louie T here on Monday Night Football Overtime. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here on the Louie T Network. Come back and join me as I continue to break down anything and everything in the National Football League. I will see you guys tomorrow with the Redskins Report live. Then I'll see you again on Wednesday for winners and losers. And then we'll be back live Thursday Night Football Overtime. Raiders, Chiefs, AFC West, family business. I'm your man Louie T, signing off. You guys enjoy the rest of your night. God bless and good night. Have a good one.